Imagine standing on the shore of Asia Minor in 480 BCE. Before you stretches the largest army the ancient world had ever seen. Some sources say over 200,000 soldiers, others claim even 1 million. Behind them are fleets of triremes, stretching so far that the horizon seems full of sails. At the center of it all is one man, Xerxes, king of kings, ruler of the Persian Empire. He was heir to the greatest realm on earth, master of lands from India to Egypt. And yet, for all his power, Xerxes is remembered most not for his triumphs, but for a war he could not win, his invasion of Greece. Why did he try to conquer this rugged land of city-states? What went wrong? And how did it change history? This is the story of Xerxes the Great, the man who tried and failed to conquer Greece. The rise of a king. Xerxes was born around 518 BCE, son of Darius I, one of Persia's most successful rulers. Darius ruled over an empire that stretched into India, Thrace, and Egypt. It was the first true superpower of the ancient world. But this vast reach also meant constant threats, rebellions, ambitious generals, and restless neighbors. Darius had already tried to subdue Greece. In 490 BCE, he sent an expedition to punish Athens and Eretria for supporting a revolt in Persian-ruled Ionia. That campaign ended in disaster at the Battle of Marathon, where Athenian hoplites defeated a much larger Persian force. Darius prepared for a larger invasion, but his death in 486 BCE left the task unfinished. This burden fell to Xerxes, who was not the obvious heir. His elder brother Artabazanes had a stronger claim, but Xerxes was favored because he was born after Darius became king, and because his mother, Matosa, was the daughter of Cyrus the Great, Persia's founding monarch. This bloodline gave Xerxes unmatched legitimacy. In 486 BCE, Xerxes was crowned King of Kings. Almost immediately, he faced crises. Revolts broke out in Egypt and Babylon, both critical provinces. Xerxes crushed them with brutal efficiency. In Babylon, he even removed the statue of Marduk, a sacred symbol of kingship, a shocking act that made clear he would tolerate no challenge. Xerxes consolidated his empire, yet he also inherited his father's unfinished war. For the Persians, Marathon represented pure defeat and humiliation. The richest, strongest empire on earth had been beaten by a few thousand Greek farmers turned soldiers. Xerxes saw conquering Greece as both a duty to avenge Persian pride and a way to cement his own legacy. Preparations began on a scale never seen before. Engineers dug canals, built supply depots, and raised a fleet. Xerxes gathered allies from across the empire: Persians, Medes, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Indians, Thracians, and more. Herodotus lists dozens of ethnic contingents, each with distinct weapons and uniforms. Even if his numbers are inflated, the scale was staggering. Xerxes was not just a king, he was the embodiment of empire itself. Every resource of Persia bent toward one goal: conquering Greece. The road to Greece. By 480 BCE, Xerxes was ready. He had spent years preparing the greatest invasion force the ancient world had ever seen. The logistics were staggering. Herodotus claimed the army numbered over 1 million men, but modern historians place it closer to 200,000 troops, supported by around 1,200 to 1,500 warships. Even at the lower estimate, it was still an army the likes of which Greece had never faced. Moving such a host was no small feat. Supply lines were stretched across continents. Ancient writers claimed some rivers literally ran dry as Xerxes' army drank them down. Engineers built massive depots to store grain and fodder. Persian officials requisitioned food and supplies from every province, from Egypt's wheat fields to Phoenicia's shipyards. This wasn't just a war, it was an empire in motion. Crossing into Europe was another engineering miracle. To march from Asia into Thrace, Xerxes ordered the construction of 2 enormous pontoon bridges across the Hellespont, modern Dardanelles. Hundreds of ships were lashed together, planks laid across them, and barriers built to keep horses from panicking. The first attempt collapsed in a storm. Furious, Xerxes ordered the sea to be punished. Herodotus says he commanded soldiers to whip the waves with chains, branding them with hot irons. Some later writers mock this as arrogance, but it also shows the Persian king's determination. Even nature would not stand in his way. A second set of bridges was built, sturdier than the first. Remarkably, they worked. Xerxes' colossal host marched across a mile of water. Infantry, cavalry, war elephants, carts, and baggage trains. A procession that took 7 full days to pass. Imagine being a villager nearby, watching an endless tide of humanity thunder over the sea. He also ordered another astonishing project, a canal dug through the isthmus at Mount Athos. Years earlier, a Persian fleet had been destroyed rounding its treacherous cape. Xerxes had it cut open so his ships could pass safely. The canal, nearly 2 kilometers long and over 30 meters wide, is still visible today, a scar on the land testifying to Persian ambition. As Xerxes advanced, many Greek cities surrendered rather than resist. They sent earth and water, traditional symbols of submission, to the Persian king. But not everyone bowed. In Athens and Sparta, resistance hardened. The two rivals, usually bitter enemies, did something remarkable. They joined forces. Along with other city-states, they formed the Hellenic League. For once, the fractious Greek world stood together. The first great confrontation came at Thermopylae, the narrow hot gates pass between mountain and sea. There, King Leonidas of Sparta led a force of about 7,000 Greeks to block Xerxes' advance. For 3 days, the Persians hurled themselves at the Greek phalanx. Herodotus reports that Xerxes lost 20,000 men in those clashes. The Greeks fought shoulder to shoulder, their bronze shields and spears forming a wall of iron. Xerxes is said to have watched in frustration as his elite immortals failed to break the line. At one point, the Persians fired so many arrows that the sun was darkened. A Spartan replied, "Good, then we will fight in the shade." That laconic defiance became immortal. Ultimately, betrayal undid the stand. A local man, Ephialtes, revealed a hidden path through the mountains. Xerxes sent troops along it, and the Greeks were outflanked. Leonidas dismissed most of his allies, but he and his 300 Spartans, along with 700 Thespians and a few hundred Thebans, chose to fight to the death. Their sacrifice became legendary, a rallying cry for Greece. Thermopylae was technically a Persian victory, but it was costly and time-consuming. The delay gave the Greeks precious time to regroup. Xerxes pressed on, capturing and burning Athens, but the seeds of doubt had been sown. Meanwhile, his navy clashed with the Greeks at Artemisium, and later would face them at Salamis. On land, Persia seemed unstoppable, but at sea, storms and Greek cunning were already beginning to turn the tide. The Clash of Empires. After Thermopylae, Athens was evacuated. Its people fled to the island of Salamis, leaving their cities to Xerxes. The Persian army swept in, burning temples and houses, reducing the proud city to ash. Xerxes had avenged Marathon, or so it seemed, but the war was not over. The key would be naval power. The Persian fleet, drawn from Phoenicia, Egypt, Cyprus, and Ionia, outnumbered the Greeks 2 or 3 to 1. Xerxes, confident of victory, brought a throne to the shore so he could watch the final destruction of his enemies. But the Athenian general, Themistocles, had other plans. Knowing the Greeks could not win in open water, he devised a trap. He sent a messenger to Xerxes, pretending to be a traitor, claiming the Greeks were divided and planning to flee. Xerxes, eager to crush them, ordered his fleet to the narrow straits of Salamis. This was exactly what Themistocles wanted. In the confined waters, the massive Persian fleet lost its advantage. Ships collided, oars tangled, and confusion spread. Greek triremes, lighter and more maneuverable, rammed and sank Persian ships one after another. Herodotus claims Persia lost 200 ships, while the Greeks lost only about 40. One vivid detail, the Persian queen Artemisia of Caria, a rare female commander, fought brilliantly. When pursued by a Greek ship, she rammed and sank another Persian vessel to escape. The Greeks, thinking she was one of their allies, let her go. Xerxes, watching from shore, reportedly exclaimed, "My men have become women, and my women men." The defeat at Salamis stunned Xerxes. With winter coming and his supply line stretched, he feared being trapped in Europe if the Greeks gained the upper hand. He retreated with much of his army back to Asia, leaving his general Mardonius in command of a sizable force to finish the job. But the Greeks were emboldened. In 479 BCE, at the Battle of Plataea, a coalition of Greek hoplites led by Pausanias of Sparta confronted Mardonius's army. The Persians fought fiercely, but the Greek heavy infantry proved decisive. Mardonius was killed, his forces routed. On the same day, the Persian fleet was defeated at Mycale on the coast of Asia Minor. The Great Invasion, years in the making, backed by the wealth of an empire, had collapsed. Persia remained mighty, but it would never again attempt to conquer Greece on such a scale. For Greece, the victory was transformative. These battles became more than military wins. They became myths of identity. Marathon, Thermopylae, Salamis, and Plataea were remembered as moments when free citizens stood against overwhelming odds. Herodotus framed the wars as a struggle between liberty and tyranny, East and West. This narrative, though simplified, shaped Western memory for centuries. And yet, Persian perspectives are often forgotten. To Xerxes, the Greek campaign was just one episode in a long reign. Inscriptions at Persepolis present him as a ruler of order, a maintainer of empire. For the Persians, the loss was disappointing but not catastrophic. Their empire remained vast, wealthy, and stable. Still, the clash with Greece had long echoes. Athens, rebuilt from ashes, would rise into its golden age. Victories over Persia gave it the confidence to lead the Delian League, transforming into an empire of its own. Drama, philosophy, and democracy flourished in the shadow of battles Xerxes had set in motion. Little-known stories add texture. After Plataea, Greek soldiers found enormous Persian tents filled with luxuries, carpets, couches, golden vessels. The simplicity of Greek living compared to Persian opulence became part of the cultural narrative. One Spartan, when shown Xerxes' richly adorned throne, supposedly remarked, "What a wonder it is that a man who had so much still desired our poor land." In the end, the clash was not just of armies, but of ideas. Xerxes commanded the greatest empire of his age, yet small, divided city-states resisted him. His defeat proved that determination, cunning, and unity could topple even the most powerful force in the known world. Legacy of Xerxes. Xerxes ruled Persia for more than a decade after the failed invasion. He oversaw grand building projects at Persepolis and Susa, expanding palaces with columns and reliefs that still awe visitors today. He maintained control of an empire of more than 2.5 million square miles, larger than the Roman Empire at its height. But the Greek War haunted his legacy. In Western memory, Xerxes became the archetype of arrogance and excess, the king who whipped the sea, who squandered men in waves against Spartan shields, who saw his fleet wrecked by clever Athenian trickery. Yet there are little-known signs of the story. For example, Xerxes allowed religious diversity within his empire. Records from Babylon and Egypt show he respected local traditions, though he did crush rebellions harshly when they arose. The Persian administration was highly efficient, using satraps and a network of roads that stretched thousands of miles. In 465 BCE, Xerxes was assassinated in a palace coup. He was succeeded by his son, Artaxerxes I. By then, Greece was entering its golden age, fueled by victories against Persia. Without Xerxes' invasion, Athens might never have risen to dominate the Aegean, leading to the flourishing of drama, philosophy, and democracy. The effects were enormous. The war cemented a cultural divide, East and West, Persia and Greece. Later generations used the Persian Wars as symbols of freedom against empire, even though reality was more complex. In truth, Persia was not a tyrannical monolith, but a diverse and sophisticated empire. Still, the image stuck. Xerxes, the great king, tried to extend his rule to a small, divided land on Europe's fringe. He failed, and in that failure, the identity of Greece, and some say the foundations of Western civilization, were forged. Conclusion. Xerxes the Great was heir to the largest empire the world had ever known. He crushed rebellions, commanded vast armies, and built monuments that still stand. But history remembers him most for his attempt to conquer Greece, and for failing. The invasion of 480 BCE was one of the greatest spectacles of the ancient world. Bridges across seas, canals cut through mountains, armies numbering in the hundreds of thousands. And yet, against the odds, a handful of fiercely independent Greek city-states stopped him. The effects shaped history. Greece entered its classical age. Persia remained powerful, but its aura of invincibility was gone. And Xerxes himself became a cautionary tale, a ruler whose ambition outstripped his grasp. In the end, Xerxes was both mighty and tragic, a king who commanded the world, yet could not bend a small corner of it to his will. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about Persian rulers, check out our book, The Persian Empire, a captivating guide to the history of Persia, starting from the ancient Achaemenid, Parthian, and Sasanian empires to the Safavid, Afsharid, and Qajar dynasties. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.